afternoon, everybody, and good evening. It's 8:15 p.m. and we're actually on time tonight for our Unbridled Talk live episode on Wednesday here. And I am so excited to have two members of the Uncharted team for Open, who just got back from Mid-Atlantic 1, so the first of the big Mid-Atlantic series up north here. And they're going to help me debrief on how it went because I haven't had a chance to tie out with anybody. I'm so excited because normally, this is the first time in probably 8 years that I missed MA1. Being pregnant, getting back from 2 weeks of travel, I was like, I can't do the 3-hour drive alone. So yeah, I'm really excited. So I've got Melissa Zengel. How do I say your last name?
Zengel.
So Melissa Zengel, and then I have Annie Seymour here, Anne-Marie Seymour. I'm so excited to have you guys.
Happy to be here.
You've got a kitty. Who is this?
That's Oliver. That is my one boy cat. He's very chaotic. He was a failed barn cat that I absolutely fell in love with and then brought home with me.
How many cats do we have collectively among the cast here?
Not sure I want to admit to that number.
Oh gosh.
I have 3 here with me. I think they're all in various places in the room because I keep hearing skittering and the occasional hiss. So I think they're all hanging out in here with me. And then I also have 2 pups. So we have 5 critters in the house currently.
She just got a second cat and she was like, I never thought I'd be a cat person. And I feel like if you've been around enough barn cats, you start to realize cats are not that much different than dogs.
No, they're
in
not.
the sense that they can be really cuddly and we have this stigma against them, but they're really sweet animals. So
yeah, and Logan was raised by the dog, so he thinks he's a dog.
Exactly.
It's so different than another dog.
That's
like our cat.
I don't think she fully realized she was a cat until we got my first kitten, Scotty. And she kind of started mothering her a little bit. And then she was like, oh, wait a minute. I'm not a dog. I'm a cat. And this is my baby cat.
Any differences here. So you guys went to MA1 in Pennsylvania. So tell me a little bit about your ponies. I guess we'll start with Melissa. What pony did you bring? What ponies do you have, since I haven't had you on the show yet?
So I brought Stella, who actually used to belong to one of my really good friends, Lindsay. Last year she came for 30 days of a refresher. And then I just kind of the partnership really started. So I've been riding her for just about a year now. And then I also have 3 other horses at home. I've got Shy, which is my mom's pony. She's a buckskin paint. And then there's Flynn, who's my stand-in for everything. So he was he's just an old Western, good old kind of guy.
Is he the gray horse?
He's the big gray.
Okay.
So, yeah. So he just kind of
has to have that.
Yeah. And then of course I have Show, who's retired and living at home, living.
That's your bay pony with the epic vaults from way back when, right?
Yeah, she's an incredible. So, you had to learn really fast, kind of you got to go with the flow.
Just make it up. And Annie, who did you bring?
So I brought Mr. Hero, Jen's pony, who I have had at my farm in New Hampshire since February, which was a big location change for any animal, especially a horse, who has spent the majority of his life in Virginia. And, a little further south than where I am. I'm up by Canada, as I like to joke with everyone. So obviously big climate change for him. Big ride change for me. I am usually on Ariana, my little Arabian mare, who is absolutely amazing, but definitely a kick ride, definitely a steady Eddie. So that was kind of the role I was in all last season, and even the past couple of years, I've kind of been a more relaxed, I'm just going to go out there and be super clean, super accurate, super consistent. But I used to play on a very fast pony, and Hero is a lot like Belle. In some ways, I actually find him a lot more fun to ride than Belle ever was. I love Belle, but Hero is just so much fun because he gives you so much. And once Jen calls it harnessing the dragon power, once you learn to harness that power for good, which is one thing that Jen said to me when she came up to kind of coach me when I first brought him up, because I was nervous at first. I was like, oh my God, this is a completely different horse than I've been riding. I'm more fit than I've been in years, but I still don't know if I'm gonna be able to physically handle this. and mentally handle it as well, because that's a giant component of riding, especially riding a more hot and competitive pony, is also the mentality piece. Um, I think I did okay at the competition. I got a little frazzled at some points, but was able to come back just like Hero. He was also able to come back from being a little bit frazzled, which was so much fun. I definitely am so happy to be back on a higher speed cap and more hot pony. It's definitely where I feel more at home. And I just had a blast on him. He was so much fun, and he's a great size for me because Genevieve and I are very similar in build and size. I have slightly, like, I think my leg to torso ratio is a little bit different, but he's just such a good fit for both of us, and he was so much fun to ride. I was just over the moon. So
all the feedback I got, people were like calling me between heats, like low key stalking you. Like, I've got paparazzi out there now. But everyone was just like so positive about the whole team dynamic and just how well you were handling the pressure of being on a horse he's well known, but he's not well known for being the best, like most well-behaved creature out there. Like, especially like I think everybody remembers like circa probably 2016 when Billy got on him for one race, and Billy's like, oh my gosh, he's like, he'll never let me live this down. But this was before Hero had brakes, mind you. And Billy did like carton and came back, and he literally lapped that PA arena 6 times before the pony would come back and stop. Like, just around and around and around.
He looked very happy the whole time. Even Billy did too. Billy just sat there and was like, it's fine. We're just going to go until he's done, and it's okay. And I think that's definitely like kind of a testament to Hero of like, you got to learn to work with him, because you cannot work against him for sure. It's not a fight you're going to win. That's kind of what I've kind of learned in riding him, is you got to learn to work with him and get used to his nuances. And I have my own nuances from years of playing games and riding different ponies. So definitely once we started figuring each other out, things felt really good. There's so many like super positive moments over the weekend, and I was beating myself up a little bit because I'm very self-critical. But then I was like thinking back, and I was like, you know what? This is my first competition ever on this pony, and it's not his first competition.
But so well, he's pony. It's a full field too, and that's a whole additional set of pressure.
Yes,
riding 8 lanes. I mean, that's very different as well.
But I was unbelievably thrilled with him, and I'm super excited for nationals. Unfortunately, I'm missing MA2 because it directly conflicts with the convention that I'm going to. But I really feel good. I feel like I have some homework, and I feel like I have some more things to work on moving into nationals and MA3. But so positive overall.
So excited.
So
hang on,
happy.
We've got a couple comments.
So happy.
We've got, all right, Linda popping in here. Hi everyone. Where is Carly Bird? We addressed this, so I know that you missed the first 2 minutes of our live stream. Carly just wasn't available tonight, just like Jen sometimes is a little tied up. She was just busy with a whole bunch going on this week, and so we kind of brought in the A team here to support, and I really appreciate it. Look at all the ribbons behind Melissa, says Carly.
I do really like the way. Do you have them on a corkboard, Melissa, or how are they lined up?
I got like a wild hair like when I was in high school, and it's like a bunch of dowel rods that are hot glued and then taped and like ribboned together. But it's got like a different stream because I mean these are like my like childhood ribbons. So
yeah,
like,
I still have all of mine, but they're in a box, and I love the way you displayed them.
Yeah, so it's just like a frame, and then it's supported all throughout it because I mean they're like really heavy, and so it's really nice because there's you know, I don't know, there's just like a lot of room for them, and you can actually see them all. So I like to look at my ribbons. So
I'm a ribbon person. Take a picture of it for us to share because it's kind of a cool craft idea.
Absolutely, I can pull some of the ribbons off and like, show you how it's built. It was really easy. It's like dowel rods and hot glue and twine. Like
now,
and then I just spray painted it. So.
To like the Sun and Fun stuff regularly enough that I think they're getting these huge ribbons, and I'm sure like there's gonna be a point, like a breaking point, where they're like, I don't even know where to put them anymore. So I gotta come up with a craft and be like, this is the next thing.
Yeah. And like I built it big because they like the USMGA ribbons used to have these huge rosettes on it. And they don't fit on like an average thing, and like string just tears up your walls. We don't have great walls because like it's an old house, so it's like plaster with
mine too.
What is that, like paneling on top, so like I had to kind of like be creative with it. So
I have. So Margot says chicken wire stapled to a frame works well too.
That's really smart.
That's a good idea. The plaster walls makes everything so complicated because you have to be as light as possible, or you like tear holes in your wall when you actually get through the concrete that is your wall. I feel like that is a really good idea, though.
I have very thin, because we live in a manufactured home. Our walls are like very thin wallboard, so anything we hang on the walls, I have to like make sure it hits a stud, or it just goes right through. I like the frame idea though. That's really unique, and because mine are just sitting in a box right now at home, and I have so many positive memories and like old games rally ribbons and old nationals ribbons and all my MGA ribbons. I miss not to like divert from the ribbon talk, but I miss when we got medals at the MAs. Do you remember this, Jen?
Oh yeah.
I loved those. I thought they were
getting the medals and getting like the trophy and the pictures with the trophy.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. Margot, what a group. I know. We've got a fantastic group of ladies here. Melissa has you beat with her pack. I think we're talking cats there.
I was gonna say, I think that's cats.
I have a lot
Definitely.
of dogs, so it's fine.
And Carly chiming in. Carly's at the barn training horses.
Ooh,
we expect video
Carly.
or some sort of proof, Carly, at some point. Yeah. I love Carly. Has a business now, so a little plug. She has her Saddle Up LLC, which is where she's giving riding lessons out of. Now she's doing some horse training, but she's been bringing her Pivo out and actually recording her whole sessions, working with this like 2-year-old, I think, filly. It was the first kind of exposure with like baby horse, which is totally different from mature horse or broken horse. It's a whole new ball game, and she's definitely alpha mare. So you guys check it out. Saddle Up LLC is her page on Facebook, and since that's what she's doing tonight. So Melissa, back to Hero being a beast of a horse to ride, right? You have Show, who kind of reminds me of Hero in ways, like very powerful, like
yeah. That's an understatement. She always was. And, like I got her when I was 13, and we like did 100 jumpers and that whole thing, and then I had the opportunity to keep her. And so like I got bored, and I had watched Prince Philip Cup at Rolex for like my entire childhood growing up, and I always wanted to do mounted games. So I trained her, but I trained her when I was like 14 and 15 and had no idea what I was doing. So she didn't really stop or turn. And so like she just became like, eventually we got there, but she's such a naturally powerful horse that you really like, it's either like you go along with her or you don't. So, and she pretty much she was an incredible pony, incredible to ride, incredible to vault, because she just like threw you up there, but you really had to learn how to like go with the flow, and like if you started a fighter, it was over. There's no coming back.
I think that's like so key in everything when we're talking. It's so funny when I'm in travel on business. Obviously I have ADHD because Jen's like thoughts are doing this and bubbling. But anyway, I have people at work who ask me about the horses, and I always kind of get reined back into the thought of people coming into horseback riding or our sport or mounted games for like the first time. Like there's even adults who've expressed interest, right? And just like the coaching mentality. And so when you talk about like Hero and you talk about these really powerful horses, I think kids have a tendency, or even adult riders, like you have a tendency, especially in our sport with mounted games, where you want to like almost over horse, and you look out there and you're like, I need the speed. I need to have like the hot fire breathing dragon animal because it's the only way that I'm going to win. But there's like that whole component, right, of riding something, like you said, you can't get in their way, or you end up causing so much frustration and tension. And it's like this interesting, like, to me, it's a step up. Like you go from the horse that you're really confident with and comfortable on, but then you go to this animal that very quite literally like has a mind of its own, and you just can't get in the way while trying to accomplish something.
Yeah. And it was a really big change for me to go from such a strong, like, and we had such a relationship because I just had her. Like I rode other people's horses for them when I was young, but it was just her and I. And so I went through kind of a path where I was trying to find kind of my next open pony, because she hurt herself and I was never sure if she was going to come back. And so for me, it was like a big trust factor to go through some of these ponies that like I didn't trust. And particularly the one that I really, really didn't trust, because we just didn't get along and it was really tough. So like to come back on Stella has been it's been really like hard for me to actually sit there and like trust her. Like I'm going to sit on you and I'm going to let you do your job, and I'm not going to manage you. because like you tend to like get a little handsy and you get like, you know, they'll let you kind of fiddle with them. And so it was a really big change to go from like show and then all these ponies in between and then to sit on Stella, who's, I mean, one of the most incredible horses I've sat on. Absolutely. But like you have to trust her and you have to just let her do her thing. And like I felt like I was able to finally do that for probably the first time in a couple of years. Like just sit there and like enjoy the ride.
That's
so exciting.
It's really hard though, like to sit back and like be like, you can, okay, like do your thing. It's really hard to like change that behavior.
And I think it like when we practice, that's where it's so critical. Drill, do your flat work, do your conditioning, but you've got to set up situations where you can practice like allowing your horse to move out and not getting in the way and getting your skills up to speed.
Right.
Like I think like litter and there's some of those races where you just start to micromanage your horse, and in competition, like especially when you've got your 8 lanes and you've got your 400-foot arena, I mean, yeah, it just doesn't work from a skill set perspective. And then you get in their face and now you're back up the arena and it just all goes downhill.
I think it's
kind of hard.
Shuffle's a great example of that too. I know you mentioned litter, Jen, but Mug Shuffle's another one where I feel like when I'm coaching from a coaching perspective, you know, and I coach very casually these days, like, but I love it. It's a passion thing for me more than anything else. I like helping other people with their ponies and with games. Because I love games so much. But Mug Shuffle is like a big one, and I especially remind my mom because Chloe is very different at home versus competition, and I'm sure a lot of us can feel that and chime in with. I know Hero can be really. Hero is like a couch potato at home comparatively to competition, when he's like, okay, like he's like ready, which isn't a bad thing. I love that, and it's so fun being on him when he's like that. But at home, when I'm practicing on him, he's like, do do do, I'm over here. La, la, la.
Exactly.
And then he's like, oh, when we get to a competition. So trying to practice at speed, right, for races like Mug Shuffle, when like you need to have control to a certain degree, but you also don't want to mess with them because like you're just saying about show and like you're saying about Stella, Melissa, it's when you mess with them that you tend to mess yourself up. And I feel like I'm always telling my mom, like, don't touch her. Do a half vault before you get to the first pole, and then you just need to do it. But don't touch her after that because she's going to squiggle, she's going to swing her butt, and then your mug's going to go on the floor. Right. Or like, hey, do your, you know, ride to your objective or ride to your piece of your game that you're playing and do a check before, but then don't do anything else. Like you need to do that component of your game, and then you can keep going and then do another check. But if you try to strangle them the whole time, it's not going to be successful. And I feel like that's a big thing that I've seen with a lot of games writers just in general is the learning to embrace letting them move forward, letting them move up, and then do a check and come back. For some of us, those checks are bigger. And for some of us, it's also involves circling, obviously. It depends on the pony. It depends on the skill level of the rider for sure. But I feel like you know, embracing that forward movement is so big, especially with games ponies, and embracing the crazy a little bit because you're not going to win that battle with a lot of these ponies. And I think it's actually a lot less toxic and more fun for us as riders and for the pony if we're not fighting with them the whole time, if we do embrace that. And I think it's a really,
and I think
go ahead.
I think it's just like we were talking about, like embracing the energy and how like forward some horses can be. Just like anytime you half vault or anytime that you get in their face, like you're obstructing all of that energy, that motion, that rhythm that the horse has. And so you almost have to, like you're saying, like you have to be intentional about your timing. Like, okay, I'm going to have a half vault here. The crazy may happen. So that's where they swing or they stop or whatever it is. But like doing that intentionally at a point so that you still have time to go do your skill and making those like separate things, you know. Absolutely. I think a lot of people are like, choke up and then they reach or something and the horse is like, oh, you know, the drama.
Or tipping forward is a big one too that you see a lot in is people tipping forward when they're trying to do like 4 flag or something, and you need to sit back. I was guilty of this past weekend. I was curled forward when I was trying to do 4 flag and it wasn't working. It happens. We all have those moments. But I think, you know, remembering as riders our body positioning and when, like Jen said, when we're checking, when we're doing our check-ins with our pony, is so important because you think about, like Jen was saying, you're stopping their motion, you're stopping their form of momentum in a way, be that physically, mentally, etc. It's kind of a mix of both because we're stopping them mentally too. We're saying, hey, I'm up here, and they might go, whoa, and then swing because they're like, what do you mean? There's someone up there.
Margot said, on a pony, pretty much the first time that has this mentality. And it's so important to be so intentional about what you really need the control and when you can do stuff without interfering. Like it's so huge, and it's so huge, especially if you ride multiple ponies that have different like tolerances. You get back on and you're like, whew. I got on Megan's pony Mo. What was it? Was it last summer? I think after your mama had come. No, this was 2 years ago. Your mama had come off. We were in 025 at the time.
Oh, yes.
And I just
did
like
a
swap ride. I don't remember why. But anyway, I had been riding Hero, and then I like come in and I went to half halt the pony for a handoff, and I swear to I almost went straight over his his ears, because he just instantly stopped, and I had no expectation of that because I'd just been on Hero. But really quick, let's just check in. We've got Rochelle says, hi, Melissa.
Hi, Rochelle.
Kim says, good evening, everyone. Zoe says, hey. Was good. Thank you guys so much for the likes. It helps get some traction so we can get more people seeing this. We've got our YouTube back up, which is really exciting. That had been like locked out for a solid month and a half. But if you guys have any questions in the comments for Melissa or for Annie, please pop them in there and we will address them. I wanted to ask you guys, like, Melissa, start with you. Like, what was the highlight for you of the weekend? And I'll leave that really broad and open-ended because you can answer it however you want.
I would say for me, I was hitting all my vaults. So most people know, fractured my wrist 2 years ago, and I have struggled with vaulting ever since. There's something about the way that the motion is and like going over the saddle, and it's weak. You know, like I destroyed all of the ligaments in my arm basically when I dislocated it. So for me, like I've been going to the gym and like really working hard and like trying to drill that, especially on a pony that doesn't pull you up. Because I vaulted show for 10 years, man. You just step, and as long as you can control your jump, like she would literally put you in the saddle every single time. And so Stella doesn't quite have like that push yet. I mean, she's only really been vaulted for like a year, I think now. So for me, like to actually hit all my vaults was really incredible. It was really like a big confidence boost because I did not walk into the weekend feeling confident on that, but she just like pulled me up every time. So
that was so exciting, like as a rider, but also the pony getting it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Annie, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, Melissa and I didn't get really a whole lot of chance to talk about like goals or what we were going to be doing in the ring and, fears, etc. going in. So I wouldn't have known that Melissa was nervous about vaulting this weekend because her vaults were absolutely fantastic.
I was thinking they're going to go really well or I'm going to miss every single one. We'll find out in the
They were beautiful. I will say, I do think you're a great example, Melissa, of how to technically carry out a vault, especially at a canter or gallop pace, because you're vaulting show. It's a great example of watching just how the pony can lift you up with the leg, and that is some of the coolest feelings ever. I'm sure anyone who understands that feeling of drift back when you hit up for a vault is such a great feeling, and definitely really love watching you vault. I admire your vaulting. I hope to get there again.
Thank you.
Definitely like last spring I was really struggling, and that's where I like deep drove working the vaults with Hero, and I would come in like from a 30-minute practice and not hit a single vault and just be in like tears. And I remember that like day and day and day, and I was like, I don't know, 7 days into this situation, and you had reached out to me, and it was just so positive and it was so encouraging because I know how you have vaulted show, but I also know that like you're rebuilding your confidence too, right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, just the community that we have, like having people support each other and just that advice and feedback was so huge for me. I remember, and by the end of the season, I felt so much better about Hero's situation, just his mentality, my ability to carry it out. So yeah, there's something great. Like when you actually start hitting your vaults, or you have a competition like that, you're like, I don't really care if I messed up 4 flag because I got my vault.
That's a big thing.
It was really hard for me too, like because like I was always a strong vaulter. I mean, I learned to vault when I was 14 on a 14.3 hand pony, which is she's massive. Like if y'all haven't seen her in person, I mean, she is just like she just is huge. There's nothing small about her, but she's so like she just like we worked so hard when I was younger, and then like to have to basically relearn to vault because I didn't vault for almost a year. maybe less than that. I don't know. It was like 6 or 9 months, and I probably went back to it way before I should have. But like, I had never not made a vault. I mean, I always was able to vault, and so to not be able to do it was like, oh my gosh, like I'm not good enough to play it open if I can't vault on my pony, which is totally not true. But for me, it felt like a box I had to check. So it was really cool, like to actually get back and actually hit them and not like feel like I was unable to do that. So that was really exciting for me.
That is, yeah. Annie, how did you, like, what was your kind of like highlight?
Oh goodness. I feel like there were a lot of really, really positive moments, but I know the one moment when I cried in the ring, and it was happy crying. And that was the big thing, was Carly was like, Annie, are those happy tears? What are you doing? And I was on the ground.
What's going on? That was great.
Yeah, exactly. It was after Hoopla in the first session of the competition. And Hero sent perfectly. Genevieve had done a ton of, not to completely divert from my experience, but Genevieve last year, as she briefly touched on, did a ton of work with Hero on the ground. A lot of which I've personally been inspired by and incorporated into my new green pony, Rocky, doing a ton of work on the ground with him, like running next to him, running at the saddle, running with him, and particularly with Hero, I do that before every single ride. Because that's one thing that Jen said made a huge difference with him as far as the vaulting, and he waited perfectly for me. I missed the first 2 fucking vaults, but then I hit the third one because I let it go. Like, I took a breath and I just trusted him, and he picked up a canter right when I hit in the air, so my feet drifted. Like, it was like that beautiful moment that we were just talking about with Melissa. So Melissa does it a lot faster than I do, which is okay. But that moment of like, we're in the air, everything's perfect, and then my butt hit the saddle and he took off, but I still got him back, and that was just such a moment of like euphoria is the best way I can explain it. I felt like, yes, all the work that I've been putting in with him, all the like effort that I've been putting into, intervals with working on him, getting him more confident, getting me more confident, getting used to each other, I really felt like it clicked into place. And that was just such a positive race for me. Lots of positive moments, not to say that anything wasn't great. I had a great time all weekend. There were a couple of things that I whoopsied, it happens. But Hoopla was definitely the one where I got very emotional.
When you just like got it.
Yes. And when, especially for a pony like Hero, that this is something that he's really struggled with in the past, like with Jen, and not bolting, not slamming his body into you is the big thing that I remember he used to do to Jen all the time, was he would push himself into Jen and turn his body away in such a way, concaving himself almost, that she couldn't jump on, but he was still smashing into her. So I definitely admire all of the work that Jen has put in on the ground with him. And like I said, that's something that I'm putting in as a foundation with my new green pony, Rocky, is we're going to do a ton on the ground. I want him to be so comfortable with me just flopping around everywhere like a little fish, jumping on and off, running next to him, because I've noticed it made such a difference for Hero. And that was definitely a big moment for me.
It does, like getting them that comfortable with you being in both places. And I think we spend so much time in the saddle that when we jump off and we run beside them, they have the tendency, even if they're okay with it at first, they start to develop some habits because they're just not used to it. Like, it's just we don't do anything on the ground like that at speed,
Absolutely.
Yeah. I just spent a lot of time walking with Stella, which I'd watched from your videos, Jen. Like, I had never had a pony that didn't just like pick up vaulting and just go with it. Like, even like Willow, who I didn't have very long, and like Aurora, like they were like, oh, okay, like I just run and like it's over.
It's
and
fine.
Stella's like, you're down here, and I'm not okay with that. So we spent walking in my field with like, and she would be fine if you were like in the vaulting spot, but as soon as you would like suck back or something, she's like done and out. So we just spent hours just walking and walking. And you can't give her like that many treats because she's got like some metabolic stuff, and then she's big personality. So like I was like, well, treats are out. So we just walked and walked and walked, and it really helped. I watched that from your videos.
Yeah, it's just the consistency of getting them used to it and making that just a part of your working program. And then they're like, okay, well, mom's down there or she's up here, but it is what it is.
There's no running us over.
Yeah, exactly. So some comments. Lindsay said, I knew you could do it, Melissa. It was about the vaulting. And Zoe said, does anyone really not vault in open?
So
I
one
would
rider
say
that,
that,
go ahead.
yeah. Good.
So there's a rider in USMGA. I don't. She's not really come out to the MGA stuff, but her name is Lee, and she was, I mean, an incredible games rider. She had a white pony named Catch, who most people might know of. But he went through like a period where he didn't want to be vaulted, and she had one of the quickest stirrups I've ever seen, and she was still more than competitive and open with a really good stirrup. So
I totally agree. And you watch some of the O25 riders that have like a very quick, like just efficient stirrup up because that's what they're used to.
right.
And I get to see it at our like Sun and Fun pairs a lot, or some of the smaller stuff where you kind of have more of a mix of riders into a division, and you have people who are either vaulting or stirruping. And sure, if you get off and your pony canters the turn and you get your vault first try, like it's faster. But there's always that margin of error on a team of 4 riders, for one. And two, a rider that's intentional about going up, just stopping, off on, it's really not that much slower. And so all you have to do is make up. Yeah.
Right. I mean, there was, she was so incredible at it that like, it was like, you thought she vaulted, she went so quickly. So I definitely think with the right, like training to get your pony to stand on the field like that, I think it's definitely possible to be competitive and open and not start and not vault.
Absolutely. And
I think that's huge. Like, we should be preaching this more, because there's a lot of kids who struggle with vaulting and kind of feel inadequate because of it. But like, it's your team dynamic. All right. If I've got 3 strong vaulters or 4 strong vaulters and one who doesn't, like, one, you can always work around that. But two, it's again about being intentional. If you're solid and consistent in every other race and it's just a stirrup, like, throwing that into the mix is not necessarily a bad thing. There's enough races that you need that person that's solid to get the ball or whatever it is.
I was going to just say, I think a lot of that, it can kind of feed into building teams as well, and team dynamics, and, team environment is a big thing that I think needs to be talked about more. I think if you're with the right team who has the right the mind space of, or headspace, I'm trying to say, of, okay, so you can't fault, but you have a fast stirrup and you're accurate. So let's have you double dunk, because we know you're going to get up solid, get settled, and hit that dunk at a faster pace than maybe someone who's running super far to catch that vault, right? And then scrambling kind of to dunk at the last minute. And God bless you if that's what you can do. Awesome. But, I think so much of it too is finding a team that will work with you and find your strengths instead of looking at it as a weakness, if that makes sense. So instead of being like, oh, so-and-so can't vault, but what else can so-and-so do? They can hit every mug game perfectly accurate. They're really solid. You can rely on them to be that awkward placement, or that person who can move the association tower somehow. I think that there's something to be said about, instead of looking at these traits that some people might see as a weakness, find a way to make it a positive, and find the team dynamic that suits your play style and what you and your pony are able to do.
100%. Yeah, I can't agree more. So I definitely, like, don't let not being able to vault hold you back from riding an open. Get good at what you do and what you're comfortable with, and get good at your stirrup up. Like, those are things that you can get stronger in, and then you're still a very valuable contributor. And again, every open team should have that rider that can be consistent and get their pony to stop and, hit a skill, because there's a lot of people who are on the ponies that do the running vaults, and getting your pony wound back down is very difficult. Caroline said, hitting those vaults in difficult footing is incredible. You guys, that's actually a really good point. I didn't think about that. There's a couple comments like, y'all had some rough footing, didn't you?
Yes.
It was pretty sloppy.
Like the whole weekend, right?
Yeah.
I would say Sunday
was
really nice. But because that ring, I feel like, does better when there's a little bit of liquid in there, not too much. But the first session, I was actually in the ring coaching for over 25, and then I know the rest of the team was volunteering. So they were slopping through the slop to get equipment. But I was watching how it was playing out with the over 25 team I was coaching, which was my mom's team, Blackout, that she rides with Devora and Courtney. And I distinctly remember Courtney was riding Ariana, my Arab, and she jumped off to try to do a vault, because Ariana has a really nice, she'll either trot or canter for you when she sends. She's really, really rateable. It's one of the reasons why she's amazing. She's one of those really lovely, steady Eddie ponies that every team needs, in my opinion. I think everyone needs an Ari. But Courtney went to vault, and she goes, I'm stuck. And then she almost came out of her boots because her boots got stuck in the mud, guys. And she almost pulled right out of him when she went to vault. So,
Oh my gosh.
like, she showed me, she's like, look, my foot's out of my boot. And I'm like, I believe you, I understand. I'm walking around in it too. But it was definitely sloppy that first session. And then it improved a little bit. And then we rode, and then it novice rode. So by the afternoon, Saturday, it wasn't terrible, but definitely in the morning session for our over 25 riders, they had a rough go of it.
Yeah.
We have a couple more comments. Hero waiting for a rider before taking off is a big accomplishment, and coming back after taking off is great too. So cannot agree more. Hero looked so good this weekend. Was sloppy, but then a strange combo of slick, soup, and hard.
Yes.
Was better on Sunday though.
That's a very accurate way to describe
that. Positive. She said it was horrible.
Thank you, Mom.
Lindsay said that's because I want her to stop.
Highly recommend stealing an over 25 rider's pony for an open pony because they do stop. They come with that like pre-installed, so it definitely makes open a lot easier when they actually like understand that you have to stop at equipment sometimes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. We don't teach patience, and okay, one, it's really hard to teach, so let's just get back to that. There's some ponies that will never learn to like stop.
Well, it's riders. It's hard as riders too, because you're like, oh, I want to get it done, and I'm mad at myself, and then it all goes to, you know.
You're so right. So like we can't necessarily teach your pony, but we can be so intentional about quieting ourselves. Like Four Flags is a good example, right? Where when you do, you kind of just get heavy and relaxed, and you can accomplish something sometimes. I say that because you've got hot ponies, but like being intentional as a rider starts to set them up so that it's easier to stop at equipment, I feel like, in the future. And when you're at practice, definitely practice stopping. We get so excited about like doing everything fast, but like the pony should be like kind of rateable and waiting and being like, should I gallop past this, or do you need me to come back? Because there's always that time.
Well, and I think deciding between like, oh, am I going to do like a big S turn here? Am I going to do a sharp cut? How am I going to approach this so that I can get it done?
Exactly.
And my pony doesn't get frustrated as well. That's a big part of it. Because some ponies give you that like half a second like cut or check, and then it's like, oh, you missed. Now,
good luck, have fun.
I'm in the holding area.
And you never know who's going to get on your pony someday too. That rides a little bit differently.
Yeah, so something that I really like to put on a lot of the ponies that I've worked with is like a true hoe. Like the word hoe at my house, and my mother can speak to this, is that hoe, the first time, it means all four on the floor. It means stop your feet. Like we only use it for actually stopping entirely. And so whether that's like in flat work or in games practice, like hoe just means stop and like give me a pause. And then I use stand to say like you need to stand here until I'm done with whatever I'm doing. So that's been really helpful to kind of give them like a vocal, like, but you have to be so intentional when you train it. Like hoe means hoe every single time.
Like you're coming back.
Right. You're coming back, and like I should be able to like bring you to a hoe in the middle of a race, and you should walk off. Like you should be able to walk off from that as a hoe. So like that's been really helpful, especially to teach like my mom's pony, who probably has too good of a hoe, as we all have probably seen. But a lot of like even like Stella or like Show, like at the end of the like when we worked together, like if I said hoe, like it was truly a stop, and that was really good because it and clicks in their head that I just have to stop. Like it's gonna be fine. Like I'm gonna get scratches and pets. Like but whoa means this instead of just using whoa all the time. It's hoe and like you better stop.
A really good point. And I like how you're saying like being so intentional with it. Like that makes a lot of sense. And it's also like establishing a healthy boundary with your horse in a way of saying like, when I say this is what we're doing, and it's okay. We're going to move on. It's going to be good. Like, and keeping it in that positive mentality instead of like spending 10 minutes going, whoa, and getting more
it is like,
up. Nope, this is the expectation, and we're good. Pat, move on. Like, I really like that. Definitely trying to keep things more positive for them. And it's easier for them to understand at that point too. They're not
because they know for sure. Hoe means all four of my feet stop.
Yes,
like just we have a weight. We've got all these other things, but hoe, like you better be ready to plant those.
Absolutely.
So, I think being consistent with commands. Carly touched on this a couple weeks back when she was talking about like, being newer into horses comparatively, but having done a lot of dog training. And like it's the same. You don't want to be like, dog, sit, stay, or heel. Because at some point they're just like, okay, you're just talking. Like you don't mean it. Like, we do that to our horses too. I think we're like, whoa, or check up. Like, you're, being very intentional about your commands so that they actually mean something.
Yeah.
I had Zoe. For me, whoa means stop your feet. Easy means slow down.
Yeah.
I think, everybody has like a cue like that. Just be consistent, Kimberly agreed. Clear words and tone with consistency of the commands is very important. We had Rochelle. Accuracy can often beat fast and out of control. 100%. Couldn't agree more. Having a fast and out of control horse most of the time, yes. Like, you should not teach your mom's pony to send for vaults.
I'm going to be paying for this until, the end of my days. I did teach my mom's pony that I never planned to ride and often said, "Oh, Chloe's too slow, Mom. She's never going to be fast enough to be an open pony, Mom." I really ate my words there, let me tell you. But when Mom first got Chloe, that was one of the things I wanted to teach her how to send. Because I needed a bigger pony for my pony club tryout video for the international team. And I ended up using a different pony because they specifically wanted 14-1. And I think Chloe was technically too short. I think she's technically 14 hands, something along those lines. But I taught Chloe to send and repeatedly did it because I thought it was funny. Until she started trying to take off on poor Mom because she didn't want to wait. And that is still something I pay for every time my mom has to get off to fix something. She's like, "If my daughter hadn't trained my pony how to send, I'd be getting on." But Chloe does. She dances. She wants to go. I think at heart, Chloe is in the open ring at all times. And my mom does a wonderful job keeping up with her.
I have a comment from Margot. She wanted to know the best race of the weekend for each of you and kind of an area of improvement for next time. I think that's so good to capture too, not in a negative way, but like creating focus, right, for your performance. Yes. So Melissa, like, what did you feel was your best race?
Oh, that's a hard question. Probably my bottle exchange. I love that race. Ooh, yes. I'm not like, I know it's not a fan favorite, but it's so fiddly and I love it. So there's just so many components to it, and I think it's so tough to get it right, but it's so rewarding when you do get it right. And then
bottle exchange is the one with the 2 barrels. Place it, pick it, turn.
Yeah.
And do it again.
Yes.
Yeah. So I love that one.
Any tips for bottle exchange then, if that's like, because that's a weird one to jive with?
It is. And really, like, for me, it's all about thinking about it of like each portion of that race is a separate component. And I think people try to play it as one race, and it's really like, it's almost like 3 races. You've got like setting and then picking up, and then you have your turn and then setting and picking up. So you kind of have to approach each portion, but then you also have that portion, like the first set is going to set you up for your pickup. And like, does your pony know to go left around the pole? Because if your pony doesn't know to go left, then the pickup is really hard because your pony's going to want to veer away because it's used to turning right at the top. So there's a lot of different portions to it. So if you like, that's one that like is really nice to walk and like warm up with, because there's so many places that you can move past the barrel, or you can practice that really good hoe. So like, it's definitely one that stays set up in my field a lot, just because it's so versatile for like training it. So,
and I feel like it's bottle exchange is one of the weird ones where, again, reinforcing that you don't always do the same maneuver at like a barrel, for example.
Yes.
Pretty much every other race, I think we cut kind of in front of it, like you turn in front or you turn beside and pass it. But I think bottle exchange is one where you kind of want to hold your pony off and go around the back. At least that's how I play it, because it sets you up for your kind of turn there.
Exactly. So there's just so many pieces to it. I think that's why I like it. And it was even really fun to show, because like, but with her, like, she had such a long stride that you literally had like half a second, which we need skill. It got you to like learn how to do those pieces really quickly. But it's a race that really builds on itself, because if you mess up in the beginning, like, you're probably going to mess up at the end. So I think it's one that's like, it's really difficult, but I love it a lot. So
when it goes right, it's like,
yeah. If it gets bad, then it's like definitely like bottom of your list, but it's personally, I really like it. So
Annie, what was your favorite race?
Oh, that's tough. I think one that I was pretty proud of myself for my mug shuffle this weekend.
That's what I was gonna mention. That was impressive.
Yeah. I felt like it felt really like consistent, and I rode through the dragon behavior. Like I
It's
gave him a
hard
big
on
old
him.
whoop before we went in there, but then I just did it. Like I stuck through it and I just hit it. And that felt and Mug Shuffle is one of those ones. It's like when you hit that game, it is so fun. Very similar to Ball Exchange. And I understand the feeling of that one too, of
Yeah.
oh, that was so smooth, and I hit every single component. And it's similar with Mug Shuffle. When you hit Mug Shuffle at a high rate of speed and then you just glide into that run out and you're like, yeah, like it feels so good. And that was one that like Jen and I had talked about. She's like, you probably want to sit from that one because he's just gonna
Yeah.
truck. And I was like, you're probably right. But then I ended up trying it on Sunday and it was super successful. So that was like a big smile moment where I was like, yeah, so fun.
And he's fast too. Like people, he
know.
eats the ground. So
It's like such an adrenaline kick. I live for it. I live for that fast pony just bolt where you have to just do it. Because that's when I think as a rider, like my skills truly shine through is when I'm pressured by that pony and just have to hit it because I know I can hit it, but sometimes I psych myself out. And that's I think a lot of my issue with my vaulting too. I can athletically get up on a lot of different ponies, but the mental piece is where I run into problems. But being in that situation where I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna hit this and go back and forth is so much fun. I just need
I
to
totally
get better.
agree. It's like too. It's so different. I struggle so much with a pony that I have to push, like intentionally push, because I have to now make a decision to go faster, which means that when I mess up, it's 100% on me versus like when you're on a hero and he's like, you got one gear, good luck, have fun. I'm like, all right, you know what? If I don't make it, I know it would have been worse if I was in the way. So it's a lot harder to me if I'm on something that's really quiet and I'm like, okay, you got to drive it. I don't know. It throws me off completely.
I overthink on Ariana versus Hero, if that makes sense. So being on the slow, steady pony last season, and like I would almost like overthink my skilling because I felt like I had so much time to think about it. Whereas the weird thing about Show having a giant stride, Melissa, like Hero, his stride's pretty big and he's very fast. So it's just like, oh Lord, like we're here.
Yeah, like you just basically like sit back and just let the equipment come to you. But like with those ponies, you really have to let that equipment like you can't go to the equipment. Like
that's a really great way to explain it. Absolutely.
Because like I owned Sky for a while and she was an incredible pony. Like we did not get along, but like I would go to the equipment on her because she was so small compared to Show. Like that's a really big change, right? She was almost a hand and a half smaller. And so for me, I was just like there's so much to fiddle with because she was so nimble. Like she's so tiny. I mean, she just flips around this corner. And so to sit on the difference between the two, like on a bigger, stronger pony, like you just kind of have to be there and be centered and let the equipment happen.
Yes.
So you can't like think too much about it because there's not enough time.
Exactly.
So.
Just being like on point and being just quick about your skill set, but and staying out of their way versus the ponies that you have to manage because it takes you like it feels like an eternity between elements, even if it's not. There's even horses that I feel like are fast, but there's a lot of strides in between, or there's a lot of motion in between, and that throws me like 100% for a loop. I think Kim said here, wait for the equipment to come to you. I might have a good goal for this year.
That's right.
I'm telling you, the takeaway
it's hard. It's hard to like sit there and let it happen, but like you just gotta it's trusting your pony, and like that's what I worked all winter on was just trusting like Stella and I's relationship. Like, can I like ride her on a loose rein and not feel like I have to choke up? Because one of the ponies that I had, like I felt like if I let go of her, it was over. Like so, just trusting and then just letting the equipment happen. It just makes it like feel a lot smoother, I think, rather than like fighting to get to the next mug or fighting to get to the
I think a good example of it is like your end turns. I think a lot of riders kind of try to lead through the turn, or like they throw their body into a turn and you're trying to make it happen faster by you physically getting yourself from point A to point B versus setting up your turn and working your element first. Like get through all of that, get through your turn, and then you lean for the barrel or the flag or whatever it is, but like accomplish the task first. Don't try to multitask. Multitasking 9 times out of 10 causes problems.
Well,
Try to break it
and
down.
instead of fighting their motion and fighting against their momentum, go with their momentum.
Yeah.
Like, because the object's going to stay in motion. You can either go with it or you can fight against it. You're probably going to be more successful if you go with it and learn to harmonize with it.
Yeah. That is so, like, harmony is so key. Margot, the second part of her question. All right, what's an area of improvement for next time, your next competition or next outing? It sounds like, I think, nationals for both of you, right? As
I'll
your
go to
next MA.
series 2, and then I'll be at the nationals.
So MA3, yeah.
MA3.
So
yeah.
MA3, like, what are we looking to improve between now and then? What's kind of like your focus, you think, walking away from this weekend? It's a hard one, guys.
So I think for me, like, really working better on my vaulting turns. Like, I got the vaults, but like I felt like there could have been a lot more fluid motion around those corners.
Yeah.
So that, and then learning to push the lines. I've ridden on scramble teams pretty much my entire life. I've never ridden with a consistent team except for 1 year. And so like I struggle to like push the lines to really know like how fast does that pony come in and how fast can I send my pony out. So for me, like, pushing the lines, and as I kind of get used to the Uncharted riders a little bit more, I think we have some potential to do better with that.
Yeah. Definitely one of the best tips I got when I was in Ireland is like, if you are at your start line and you look at your first pull out and you look at your holding box, so the line behind the start line, if you're at a dead standstill at the holding box and you have a horse cantering in, as their shoulder passes that last pull, you should be pushing out and going from like a dead stop to your canter, and you guys should meet kind of at the start line. This is like a good visual for me. So in my head, I'm always kind of waiting for that moment, like as the pony's cantering in, and then you start rating back and adjusting for your team. But like that's huge, especially when you're coaching, I feel like intermediate riders a lot of times because they haven't quite figured out that timing. And there's times where they're just like hunkered back. Yeah. You're like, bro, you just lost half the arena.
Yeah.
It's something to be conscious of for sure. Annie, what was...
I would say my big area that I want to improve is also related to vaulting. I know everyone's shocked. Vaulting has been a big confidence issue for me for a long time. And I used to have a very strong vault, like hit all the time. I had a wonderful pony growing up that I could just vault all day long. And she had that beautiful canter that just picked you up. And I was very spoiled. And then when I moved on to some of the other ponies that I rode and trying to find the right pony again, and then I found Belle. And whereas like my pony Vegas would, nice canter, pick you up, Belle drop kicked me on a variety of occasions. Dragged me around. Like she just
it was a bit rough.
I didn't hit those vaults, I was punished. Like punished hard. I tore my MCL, like a multitude of injuries from it. Because I just wouldn't give up and I kept getting dragged around by the pony.
Yeah.
But that blew my confidence. So I'm sorry for going on a bit of a tangent there, but it helps having the context, I think, of why I have the issue that I have. I have a great off. I get off at like a canter gallop, like quick down, running. I'm great. And then I hit the 3/4 of that turn and my brain goes, and I go from, jumping off really fast, hitting the ground running, turning perfectly, landing myself. Oh, and now we're loading. Shit, I'm behind. I can't come.
Loading.
Sorry for the dramatics, but that's the best way I could think of explaining it is I hit that 3/4 when I need to just jump because I'm athletically there. I've been going to the gym. I'm in best shape that I've been in years. My body's there. I'm ready. I have the ability and I can't do it. And it kills me inside. So I've been trying to figure out a way to mentally move past that section and just jump because I'm setting myself up for success and then I'm just,
it definitely, like for me last year when I was doing daily small vaulting sessions and groundwork, I started, like you're talking about, Melissa, like you start to get up, but then you start to realize that there's this whole rhythm involved with your turn and getting your pony comfortable with kind of wrapping around you and then moving out. And when your pony gets to that point, it makes the vaulting so much easier. But training that is hard.
I just suggest like being 14 years old and just like vaulting 1,000 times a session. It really makes it a lot easier to train that. I'm just saying. Because like I don't have the stamina to vault. Like I used to do 2 founders pulls a practice and like breathe afterwards.
Oh
Yeah.
Like that's not an option anymore, you know.
Oh,
I think there's so many pieces to it, and it's hard because it's you get tired and you get worn out. Your pony gets burnt out on it, but like getting that smooth corner, like to get that one kind of like 1-2 up, like
Yeah.
that's really hard. It's like I would
And it definitely is like one of those things you intentionally work, kind of like groundwork, just going out and getting off your pony at a canter. And if you need to, like having somebody there with a crop or something to kind of help drive them around the turn and get your pony to pick back up, because it's a lot harder when they come around the turn and they decelerate. If your goal is to get them to kind of come around and then they want to take back off, like get the energy back up. But it's like very intentional. And once your pony starts to do that, and I would suggest jump off, get your pony to like start to take off, and then if you can run with them a couple of strides, great. But don't even try to jump at first. Like just get the cadence where you feel the motion and it feels very comfortable. And your pony starts to be like, okay, this is what they want. And then once you get that cadence, that's where you start integrating the jump. Because if you just, to me, if your pony is like coming around the turn and plugs out and you try jumping every time, you start to reinforce, or you're not capable of reinforcing them moving up and like getting out of the way and using that energy like you're talking about with show that actually like pulls you into the saddle.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
It's definitely something that you have to drill intentionally. Priscilla said, what do you think is the best way to create muscle memory for running vaults? I'm curious what you guys think.
I would say similar to what you said, Jen. So I mean, like the more that you can do like squat jumps at the gym, like it really is, it's all a squat jump, and then whatever the thing is where you take it and you pull it this way.
Like out lat pull down.
Yeah. Because really like those are the muscles and like that you're gonna use to really pull yourself up on the pony. Because if you imagine like it's really you're pulling and then you're jumping. So if you can get really strong like lat pull downs, and then if you can do like box jumps, lots of box jumps, because those are the 2 components of your body. And then doing what you said, Jen, like running with your pony a lot and getting really comfortable with just like hanging out, running next to them, and then you kind of strengthen the muscles while you're training the pony, and then it all kind of falls into place.
And I think definitely consistently going out there and just getting your pony moving, jump off, run with them, work on the jumping on. It's really messy at first. That's what I learned, because I was just like it wasn't clicking for me for a while. And when you do get it, try to do it a second time. Like, okay, I got it. Like try to internalize that, do it a second time, and then stop. Do it again the next day. And it honestly is just like, you've got to get out there and do it a lot of times until you get really comfortable with the feeling of the motion. And I say that particularly at the canter. I feel like the canter throws a lot of people off because it is so different from the trot. I have a comment here by Margot. She said, it helps to get the feeling on a lunge, might help Annie to gain some confidence to be on a lunge line for a few with solid controlled canter vaults to get back into the rhythm. Couldn't agree more. Hero was just figuring out cantering, like the canter vault portion.
Yeah.
But he's not an ironed out, I got it, and I'm going to pull you up every time.
So both times in hula hoop this weekend and that really good hoopla vault, he did canter off when I was in the air, and it felt great.
So good.
So it was really very smooth. It was great. Like his canter lifted me up type deal.
Yeah.
And not him bolting, like him being very present, being there and sending into it. I do love the idea of the lunge line, Marco. Thank you so much. It's actually something Mom and I have been doing with all of our ponies recently. It's a lot of lunge work. But I love the idea of getting in the circle with him and just working on that on off. I would say it kind of, yes, absolutely. And related to Priscilla's comment, I saw the building the muscle memory. I think the biggest thing that I did when I was vaulting Belle successfully was every time I rode her, so even if I was just doing intervals, I would run on the ground with her like I was doing run and ride almost, and then jump into a vault, and then I'd reverse it. So I'd ride down, jump off at the speed, turn on the corner really sharp, and then book it. And I found it helped me stay really fit at the time. And it was a great way to work on running with her on the ground, getting comfortable down there. So similar to what I'm doing with Hero now, as Jen's talked about, but just at the faster speed, because I needed practice at that. That's how I got really good at offs, because I was doing it every time I rode. That's how I finished my rides. I'd do my run with her, and then I'd vault, and then I'd do the ride, and then jump off and run. And that's how I ended every single ride. And it was just making me do that repetitive. That's, I think, how I built the muscle memory for like just that fast off and go.
Yeah.
Because again, that's not my problem. My problem is I hesitate right before I jump.
And
But I love
that's
the
so
idea of the
key.
lunge line.
Like, don't hesitate. And I think for
Yes.
me too, I started incorporating sprints into, like, I was working out a lot, but I'm not a
Yeah.
runner. My poor husband, I had him come out and watch me. This is when I was devastated. I couldn't hit anything. And I was like, just watch me. This was not Toby, guys. He's a saint. He's just a canter along. He's perfect. And I'd be like, jump off and run. And my husband's like, well, you're not even running fast enough to start. Like, because I've got like my little shuffle step. And like, but being intentional about, I think, conditioning yourself too, you kind of have to match their stride as you come out. That's what helps with the rhythm. And you see like a Kelsey go out there with Stella, and that pony is booking it, and watch her feet, like her stride as she's out there running. I mean, it's good, I think, to definitely consider doing like some micro sprints.
Yeah.
We used to do vaulting circles for Pony Club where we had multiple ponies in a 20-meter circle being ponied like hula hoop, and you vault one, then jump off, run to the next pony, vault that
Yes.
one. What?
That sounds chaotic, but like I'm here for that.
I
I'm just
actually
gonna
get
say.
through a very similar drill, Marco, also through Pony Club, which is super funny. I know that we both pony clubbed quite a bit when we were younger, different periods of time. I'm old, but I've definitely done that vaulting drill as well. We used to do it all the time. Yes, yes, absolutely. It is a circle of death. We did it very similarly, and I used to do it with kids in Pony Club that I was coaching. Was we'd have the moms or other ponies pony the ponies, so that the kids could vault off, run to the next one, vault off onto the next one. And it was so much fun, especially when you were a little Pony Club kid and you had all the energy in the world. And or you're 16 years old and you can just jump on and off of ponies. Yes, it does help making the sprint in between two. You're absolutely right. I'm so glad that there are other people that remember these old school Pony Club drills that I feel like a lot of us grew up with. It makes me nostalgic for.
It makes me think that we need to push more clinics.
Yes.
Like I've got kind of the baby competitions coming back in this area, but now like we need some clinics with some old school Pony Club teaching, like some of these crazy drills. I remember Michelle used to have us do some really just nutty drills, like putting races together in ways you wouldn't think of, because it gets you to like think of the elements, not the whole race.
So it's Michelle that taught me the vaulting circle thing too. That was something I did with
She
Michelle
said
at
some
a
crazy drills.
boot camp for the Pony Club team in 2009 was the year I went. And she had us do all of the circle one, the potato one. There's so many. Yeah.
Margot
Michelle
says
is
it was Michelle for her
amazing.
too.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Michelle made an impact on so many people.
She really inspired me as a rider and still inspires me today. I miss her terribly. I think that there's so many kids that miss her terribly. I only knew her very briefly and I miss her. But yeah, I think definitely. Oh, yep. Zoe says she wants to do the drills. It's so fun, and I feel like there's that element missing sometimes from. I'm at Games Across America and USMGA are both organizations that run these amazing big competitions, but I feel like we're missing some of that like clinic, like that community aspect, and I would love to see some of that come back in either one of the organizations or both, preferably.
Yeah.
Where clinics are offered, where kids can have an opportunity to just be kids and be silly and swap ponies and jump on and off and do all those things that a lot of us got through Pony Club, honestly, or through riding in a big barn or however you got into horses. But I feel like if we could get that community aspect back, that would be really positive for everyone. And for
I can't agree more.
It would be great. You get to, some of us adults don't have a coach.
Yeah.
I don't have a coach. I would love to have a coach. Please yell at me.
Just another set of eyes was so like helpful for me last year, having Adrian just kind of watch for a second and be like, okay, what am I doing wrong? And give me some advice that I can take back. I wanted to bring up Priscilla's comment again, because vaulting is something I think a lot of people struggle to learn when you go to running vaults. And I wanted to kind of pick on that really quick though, before we walk away. Running vaults versus a standing vault. If you're good at standing and quarter vaults, it is a totally different beast to get into the running vault game. Like running vaults are so different in how I think you position yourself, because you're trying to capitalize on the energy with the horse. And it just reminded me actually of a comment that I think you made, Melissa. would have a tendency last year as I was going into the season, when I would jump off or when I would go to get back on, I would try to twist my hips and kind of like I'd face across the horse like I would do if I were doing like my corner vault or my standing vault, because that's where I was comfortable. But you were like, no, keep those hips forward.
It's really
You're trying
hard
to keep your energy forward.
Like run with your hands up here. Like I'm at the gym, like running with my hands on my head. Like I've got my look. Like it's hard because there's so much more core there. But when you hold your hips straight, that really does make an impact, it seems.
And so like if you are trying to create muscle memory, I think that's the one thing you could focus on besides running with your pony consistently. Try to keep your hips forward with the horse's motion and think about extending that inside leg backwards over the horse and around versus like pivoting and jumping across the horse. That's going to be huge. And it's hard to describe, but just practice it and just in your head, hips forward, look forward. Like everything has to be forward because that's where the energy is going with the horse. And once you hit it, it'll make sense. I promise you. It just takes time, of course, in practice doing that. We had another fun drill, says Margot, litter battle. Put out as many cartons as you have randomly through the arena. 2 teams, each have a bucket. And the one with more litter when the field is clear wins. I love that. That sounds like completely chaotic, but I'm here for it.
This makes me wish I had more riders like by me to ride with. Like it's my mom and I, like, and occasionally a friend that I drag along with me. So
it's like, yeah, and we think Pony Club and you create all these drills for kids, but it would be really good to do with your team if you could. Like we really should try to push people to practice, I think, more on like a Friday night before competition when everyone's coming from out of state. These are some things that you could do collectively that would be pretty fun. Marco says it sometimes ends in a sword fight. And Joy was just reinforcing, you have to face forward to avoid belly vaults. Yes, I can't tell you how many times I have gone complete whale across my horse while he's galloping away. Like there's nothing like staring at your horse's belly while your horse is at a dead gallop. Promise you. A little bit scary.
She taught you that you better get it better be clean because if like you landed on your belly, it was over. Like
exactly. Like you've got to be forward. Definitely, and keep a hold of whatever your grip is so you don't come off the back. I think someone mentioned like landing behind the saddle.
I have a video of me doing that, so like don't I starfish right off the back. Like don't like get in your saddle and then switch your hands.
Yep.
So it's on my.
And if you have a tendency to fall behind your horse, like for me, I'm super long bodied and it's just hard in general unless I'm on a 15-hand horse. Brett had suggested that I use my elbow into kind of the pommel area of the saddle. And so I actually grab my breastplate, like forward my breastplate, which is like a 5-point breastplate. So the point where the pad is on the shoulder, that's what I grab when I go across because I'm so tall. And then I anchor my elbow into the pommel of my saddle. And I just wear like an elbow brace to pad it a little bit. But for me, that has kept my whole body forward so I don't come behind the saddle like I used to. Other people have suggested, and it's worked, when you are practicing running vaults, if you're afraid of hitting the back of the saddle and like that's your trauma, just go out there bareback and have your pony go out and work bareback as long as they're safe. And you won't hit any saddle, right? So just get your footwork in place. I think those are pretty helpful. We've got Caroline, we need clinics and Joy, but not on competition weekends. I mean, you're right. I think we need some actual legit clinics, like maybe a 2-day clinic where everyone comes out and camps like a competition, but we just do like a bonding weekend. So you guys, final thoughts?
I love the idea of bringing clinics in if there's a way we could facilitate it, like a 2-day thing, or like, hey, we're all going to go to the Grange and we're going to offer clinics with such and such. If you want to do drills, there's going to be a ring for drill, like something along those lines. It'd be really interesting to see down the road. MA1 was awesome. That's my final thoughts.
I'm really excited to get to ride on a team with like some consistent riders and really see the ability to improve over a season. I've not like I said, I don't really have that experience of getting to actually like consistently try again with the same riders. So I'm really excited with the Uncharted girls. They're amazing. So that'll be really fun. So I'm excited.
We are so
I can't wait to see you guys.
You have been such a phenomenal addition. The energy is on point, and so much fun to watch ride. watched you ride for years on YouTube and everything, and getting to meet you in person and ride with you has been so cool.
That's awesome.
I couldn't agree more. So, and we're so excited to have you coming out to the MAs. And if you can attend more, just let us know and we'll make room for you because we love having you.
It is hard because they are,
it's a ways.
7 hours away. So it's just a little bit tough because I don't have another driver for the trailer usually.
Yeah.
So like it's all me, which is fine, but it just makes it hard to like sometimes recover and get back to work.
It does.
Absolutely.
Because my workload's really heavy Friday, Mondays. So doesn't help, but we make it work. So I'm just loving the MGA scene. I've been having so much fun coming out and riding with like all the people out there, and you guys have so many teams. And it's so welcoming. Everyone's always like super excited to see us and says hi, and I love it. So it's a great group of like
it's just been great
also
having
just a great group of people to be out there with.
Yes.
So.
I
right,
agree.
and the 8 lanes, man.
A great ring of open riders, I think, this season. Just everyone has everyone I feel like in open right now is very positive for the most part. And it's very cordial with each other, and I feel like the energy in the ring is really positive and really welcoming, actually, coming back to open after being gone for so long, especially.
Yeah, it definitely has. I think that it has changed, and people who are intimidated, you can't vault, whatever it is, I don't care if you have a welcoming team, and that's the key. Get the right team dynamic, and you guys can rock and roll even if you aren't at like a Brett or a Kelsey or a Punk Rock Pony speed. There's a whole lot of place in between out there in the field. So excited to have you on the team. Thank you guys so much for coming on this evening too. We'll definitely have to have you back after nationals.
Yes, absolutely.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful evening, and we will see you next week on Wednesday Night Live. Bye.
All right, bye.